Good morning, everyone. Okay, am I very audible?
Good morning to
Just
you.
checking.
I hear
Good
you.
morning. Yes, you are.
Good morning. All right. So glad to be here. Okay. Um, all right. We're excited to be here this morning. All right. No one is showing excitement.
We're excited, actually.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, welcome, Mr. Pratt. All right. I'm not sure now. Pratt seems like a female name. I'm not very sure now. Pardon me, please. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Viyon Dansu, and I'm honored to be your moderator today. All right. Okay, it's gonna be exciting today. Promises to be insightful also. Um, so of course we've started already. The time is now, and we're expecting more people to join us. All right, so but let's do this. Let's do this. All right, so I think we'll go around. Then as people come, we will allow them to introduce themselves. So introduce themselves, a name, where we are joining this call from, what time it is over there, and also um a fun fact about you, then what, just one word. Okay, let's do this down. Let's go the way of scholarship. Like come up with a sentence, a 5-word sentence now, summarizing what you hope to take out of this program today. Hope that's not too difficult.
Five
All right,
words
so
is very, I hope we can get that.
like a 5-word
hmm
sentence consisting of 5 words now, highlighting, summarizing what you hope to take out of this program.
All
I
right.
want us to be creative about it, and I know we all are scholars. I trust all.
Hopefully,
All
yeah.
right, so you said what's that?
Fine.
Okay, good. So introduce yourself. We are joining this call from Australia, New Zealand, Uganda, from wherever in the world they're joining us. Then, of course, a fun fact about you. Then, like 5 words summarizing what you hope to take out of this session. All right. Um, just a second, just to check something here. Okay. Um, let me share my screen first off. Just a second, please. Trying to get some things done here. Can we all see my screen?
Yes, I see it.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. So who's gonna go first? Or do you want the moderator to go first?
You can
Don't put
set
me
the
on the
ball rolling,
spot,
right?
please. Oh, I should so. I don't know. Okay. I think Prat was trying to do justice to that, right? You want to go first?
Okay.
Oh, thank
I
you
am
very much.
I am Deleprat, and I'm a member of the forum. That's the Real Boys Forum on WhatsApp. So this is my very first time actually getting to participate in a Zoom class. So let's say Zoom workspace. So I'm very excited, especially about the topic, the spirituality matter. So
Wow.
I'm really expecting to learn so much today.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So what's
What
a
do you
fun
think?
fact about you?
Well, I'm a pastor, a young pastor. So
Wow.
basically I'm resident in India for now, but I'll be relocating in some few months back to my Cameroon. I'm in Cameroon national. My nationality is Cameroonian. So yes,
Okay, so sorry, I didn't get that. You said you are resident where? in Cameroon. I didn't get that very well, sorry. Can you hear me?
He's resident in India,
Written in
but
India.
he is from Cameroon.
Oh, in India. So sorry, I didn't hear
Yeah.
that. Wow, wow, wow,
Lovely.
wow. That's so lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
So you're a Cameroonian resident in India.
In India.
How's President Paul Biya? Our beloved president. All right. All right. So then do you want to tell us give us like a five word summarizing, like a 5 word sentence summarizing what you hope to take out of this program?
Please come again. I didn't get.
Like come up with a sentence with 5 words exactly now, summarizing, highlighting what you hope to take out of this program today.
Inspiration.
That's the right? Please pardon me.
Yeah, inspiration. Inspiration.
Okay.
Inspiration is one of the words.
Okay.
Exhortation.
Okay. Awesome.
Illumination. I want to, because
Illumination.
this is a topic which is very quite sensitive. Spirituality, very, yes. So illumination, and basically just getting something new, learning. Even though I've really, when I was much more younger, I actually I've been through this kind of topic. That's spirituality, spirit, soul, and body. That's a tripartite being of man. But I think today I'm open to learn so many things. Like I'm really, really open to learn so many things.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. All right, so let me just do this fastly because of the time. So then I will turn it over to every one of us to introduce ourselves. So my name is Viyon Dansu. I'm your privileged moderator this morning, and I'm glad to have everyone. I'm currently in Maryland, United States. It's 7:11 a.m. here. So early. All right, but of course, I'm glad I'm on this call. So
are you in Maryland temporarily, or that's your new base?
Yeah, that's my new base. I left Florida like a few months ago, but I'm still a student in Florida.
Oh, these American people.
I don't have to be on campus again because I'm almost finishing my program.
Oh,
So
lovely. Is your wife in Maryland?
She's still in Nigeria, but I'm trusting her she'll be able
Oh, I see that. Okay. Yeah, we speed up her relocation in Jesus' name.
Amen.
All right.
Say it once again. I love that.
Very important. Spirituality is coming in already.
Oh my God, yes. Okay, so fun fact about me. So I'm a doctoral candidate finishing my PhD. Is that a fun fact? Maybe not. All right, finish my program in the next few months. Then of course,
PhD can be fun though. Maybe it can
be fun, right? I totally agree.
Right.
Then 5 word sentence summarizing my expectation. Summarizing how I feel about this program. And I think this is it. I believe spirituality matters greatly. So I believe spirituality matters greatly. That's 5 letters, right? So maybe let me rephrase the question now. So it's not what I stated now is not in line with my question, which is what do you hope to get out of the program? But just be creative about it. 5-letter sentence, 5-word sentence now. Highlighting, summarizing what you want to take out of the program or how you feel, how you think about the topic under consideration this morning. So thank you very much. So let me turn it over to who's going to go next now? Introduce yourself, fun fact about you, where are you joining us from then? If 5-word sentence summarizing your expectations for this program or what you think about this program, like I just did. Thank you. All right. John, yeah, please, you can go on, please. John, sorry, I thought you were saying something. We can't hear you.
Okay, while it prepares, I can go.
Okay.
My name is Emmanuel Viyon Dansu. I am currently in Sendai, Japan, the 12th largest city in Japan for that matter.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, no, if you know the person that is coming on today, you will know that you are in for a great time of enlightenment. So I
Amen.
want to be enlightened. Five
Amen.
word sentence, right? That's my one 5 word sentence. I want to be
That's
enlightened.
some scholarship.
Now waiting you tell us, make we do. Thank you.
Dr. Dansu, you never
Yeah.
disappoint, sir.
Now so now. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So who is going next? Who is going next? Someone is having a Phoenix X6836. Do you
I
want me to
mean, that
name?
person got in by some stroke of chance because normally I wouldn't admit the person because we
Okay.
have instruction that you should give us your phone number. I mean, let's have the person. I don't know. Let's go ahead. Maybe we
All
can know
right.
the person's name.
You can help us rename your device and also introduce yourself, please. Then Mr. David Bono, you can also try to unmute to yeah, so let anyone that is ready unmute and introduce themselves,
Looks
please.
like John Bull is having a tough time. It's been coming and going.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good evening, depending on wherever you are joining from. Yeah, my name is John Bu Vitowano, and I'm currently in Lagos, in Nigeria, and yeah, it is a privilege and honor to be on this on this event. And yes, I believe that I'm going to learn a lot. Because when it comes to the issue of spirituality, it is one thing that is, one big topic in this generation we are, like we call ourselves Gen Z. So it is something that I believe that should be discussed even if it is every day. So for me, I'm looking forward to one transformation because from the book of Romans, let us know that we should be transformed. Please confirm if you can hear me because I
Very
don't
well,
know
very
if
well.
Loud and
okay.
clear.
All right, thank you. So the from Book of Romans chapter 3 said that we should be transformed. So I'm looking forward to transformation. Then also I'm looking forward to a point whereby I'll be confident enough, when it comes to spiritual matters. So I'll be confident in the spirits. And so I think I've spoken about 2 words now: transformation, confidence, then also diligence. Like I want to be diligent when it comes to spiritual matters. Like I believe that, yeah, I've been trying my best, but yes, I'm open to learning. I'm open to, hearing from everyone about like their perspective when it comes to spirituality. So that is like 3: diligence, confidence, transformation. Then I would say um then I want to use the word spiritual at the same time. Like I want to be more spiritual. Because in the process of talking about does spirituality really matter, then you should also know that the word spiritual is something that we should consider, right? So I want to, from here to be more spiritual, to learn about that, that's which I need to do, to get myself to that position that I've always have in mind. So the last one is like taking me closer to God, like putting me in a place of fellowship more and more. Yes, so that is all from my end. Thank you very much for this privilege. Thank you, Dr. Dansu. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was insightful. All right, who's going next? Mr. Olaomi Abayomi, Mr. David Bono, the Infinix X6836, Mr. Moses Dagwion, welcome. So we're introducing ourselves. Tell us your name, where you are joining this call from, a fun fact about you, then a 5-word sentence regarding what you think about the topic of discourse this morning. Mine was, I believe spirituality matters greatly. So something around that. Okay, so who's going next? Or do you want me to choose someone who's going to build the cat? That's the proverbial question. It's long question.
Hence, from my experience dealing with people, most times if you don't call people, they won't answer you. So but if you say
Okay.
you go, then
Okay,
they
so you've empowered me,
they need to
sir.
have a solid reason not to answer you.
Thank you for empowering me, sir. So, Mr. Laumi Abayomi, can you go next? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My name is Abayomi from Yokohama, Japan, Nigerian. I count it a privilege to join today's meeting, and my expectation, I believe in spirituality, and personally, I've had a lot of testimonies in my life. But then today I would want to hear a lot of testimonies, especially when an elder will be sharing his experience, a lot of things with us. So I look forward towards more light and testimonies from the speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So, Mr. Mayoko is an elder. That's noted. All right. Can we have Mr. David
I
Bonu?
can't wait to
Just
hear what
hearing
he
for
has
the
to
first
say
time.
about that.
I was just saying, I'm just hearing it for the first time myself.
All
Now,
right, Mr. David Bonu, can we have you, please? Sir?
Good afternoon, everyone. Please, can you hear me? Okay,
Very
thank
well.
you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bonu David. Sorry, sir, I can't hear you.
You can
go
go
ahead. Please go ahead.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bonu David. Yeah, I'm joining this call from Akure, Ondo State, Nigeria. Yeah, I don't really have 5 words, but I'm just here to learn from those that I believe are more experienced than me. So that's why I'm here.
Okay, thank you. He's an elder, is equally experienced. That's Mr. Mayokun. Okay, so then you didn't tell us a fun fact about you. Do you want to do that? All right. Let's turn it over to Mr. Moses Agbeyon.
Hello, can you hear me?
Audibly.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay. I'm Moses Dagbeyon, so I'm calling from Lagos Island. So I'm happy about the topic, and I believe that I'm going to get something better during the conversation. And also, the purpose of when I had the topic, I was like, does spirituality really matters? And looking at spirituality, whatever we are doing in this life, the place of spirituality can never be overemphasized. So it's something that we can't do away with. That's why I know that I'm in for to learn a lot of things this afternoon. So thank you so much.
And your expectations will not be cut short.
Amen.
Rest assured. All right. Who's the next person? Infinix X6836. Do you want to mute? Rename your device if possible and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sunday Venas Ogusoro. I'm calling from Badagry, Nigeria.
The evangelist.
I'm so glad, sir, my professor, sir. It's a privilege to be here. At first, I was looking at the topic. Spirituality doesn't really matter. Actually, I don't have any 5 sentence to make, but what I'm just after is that I observed some of our beloved brothers here in Nigeria. So by the time they left this country over there, as in there are some kind of doctrine, I would say, that they don't longer follow those doctrines. So at times I began to ask, is the God of Africa different from the God of Europe or other countries? So
wow.
I just want to do more. Like then you can hear our sisters don't put on trousers here, but when they get over there, you see them putting on trousers. Some you even see them putting head warmer while praying. So does it really matter? Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Very valid concern.
Thank you so
nice
much.
one.
I mean, a lot we could unpack from that very thing you said, sir. A lot of things to do
Seriously.
unpack. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Like, I tell people, I mean, I believe we all are Christians here, and the scripture provides a frame of reference for us, and God's word is absolute, and it's applicable to all generations, to all people across, lands and across seas. So which means God's word isn't changing. What applies to us, to people back then, is applicable to people now. What applies to the white applies to the black, because God himself, the author of his word, isn't changing. All right. So are we done? I think we are done, right? We are done. Everyone has introduced except one. All right, so and that's our speaker for today. Is anyone excited? Let me see excitement with emojis, with like a very powerful word in the chat box. Before we go ahead, I have to see that we all excited. All right, it's only one person. 1, 2, I'm counting. Oh, hey, you guys, I'm petty this morning, right? 3, okay. 1, 2, 3. We are not starting if everyone is not showing excitement. 1, 2, 3. Someone is dropping it. I mean, excited. Oh my God. I love that. I love that. All right, Mr. Bonu David, thank you so much. I can see that also. All right. So it's my own. Okay, I have somebody dropping something on the chat box. I'm elated. All right, yup, UP. My note, it is said. I can't wait. Thank you so much. So this is one thing you can do to also encourage the moderator. Like, please keep me encouraged, dude. Hey, all right. So I can't wait. I'm equally excited, like my prof said. All right. So, okay. Before, I think we have a couple of persons joining us. So before I introduce the speaker, can we have Israel Iniolua to introduce himself? So this is it. Tell us about yourself in few words, where you're joining this call from, a fun fact about you, and come up with a 5 word sentence regarding what you think about the topic of today. Mine, the one I came up with was I believe spirituality matters greatly. So that's 5 words. I believe spirituality matters greatly. So come up, be creative around that. I know you can, of course. Sorry for putting you on the spot. All right, so can we have Israel Iniolua go ahead to introduce himself? Thank you. Israel, can you go ahead, please?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, sir.
My name is Israel Iniolua. I'm calling from Ibadan, Nigeria. And I'm just a recent graduate. I just finished my service this last October.
Congrats.
Hello?
Yes, congratulations. I'm excited about that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Concerning spirituality, I think some people do take some decisions in life thinking that I think luck speaks. That is, they decide on luck to take some decision in life. So they don't really bother on spirituality. Some even neglect it. And then looking at the topic, does spirituality matter? That is, in our life experiences, do we really need to be spiritual to take some decisions? Do we really need to be spiritual? That I would say that it is important to be spiritual because most of the things that happen are the things that are coming out from the things unseen. The Bible, the scripture says, "He called those that are not to be seen." So we can't just decide on luck and then figure our life out. You see, luck will play out sometimes, but it cannot be all the times that luck will play out. There are sometimes that there are some situations that just become beyond used to be beyond our imaginations that we won't be able to explain. But we need some maybe it's kind of miracle, a spiritual backup to such situation. So in every aspect, I think spirituality does matter. Does matter. it's not about it might sometimes when we talk about spirituality, some people have different kind of maybe faith or religious whereby some might be just through meditation and then some things will just come up. It might be even be Christian faith that they have to go to. It might be the Muslim faith, but in whatever aspect, whatever we may be doing, I believe spirituality really matters. Really matters. I'm done.
Okay, wow. That was profound. You went prophetic, Israeli Nolua. So good we have pastors on this call. Pastors. All right, so to set the tone for the speaker, so let me just, before I read his profile, I actually believe, of course, every human being, we all are spirit beings, right? We only are living in bodies. We live in bodies, right? A man is a spirit, right? He lives in the body and he has a soul. So like Pratt said the other time, Pastor Pratt said that's the tripartite being. So I believe because we all are spirits, think about it, spiritual. So the word spiritual comes from the root word spirit. I won't say more than that, but that's just to keep us thinking. As we have, as I introduced to us this morning from here, because it's morning where I am at this time. The speaker, Mr. Mayokun Adekola, is a seasoned professional in architecture and construction project management. He has a strong background in both construction and the IT. He holds a degree in architecture from the prestigious Federal University of Technology, Akure. Is anybody excited to be from that school yet? All right. And he
Should
has
we
a
sing the
degree
school
in
anthem?
environmental. Oh no, you have a school anthem. That's amazing to know. Oh my God. Okay, so after his program at FUTA Akure, he proceeded to study environmental engineering from Texas A&M, that's in the United States. Recently, he has expanded his skill set by pursuing certifications in data science and Azure Cloud. In addition to his technical pursuit, he's a published author. Wow, I love that. His memoir, Can You Hear Me? That's a book he wrote. Shares his experience as an immigrant in the United States. When he's not working or learning, you can find him speaking at events. Oh my God, I love this. As an MC or exploring his passions for politics. Oh yes, personal growth. I think we should have a talk, Mr. Mayokun, regarding the last year's election. Personal growth, especially for men. And soccer. And he loves, guess who? Who's going to guess his favorite footballer? Who's going to guess? I'm going to do something for that person. I'm going to give a resounding round of applause for that person. Who can know? Who can guess that? Who is his favorite footballer?
Messi.
What?
Messi.
Sorry, are you saying this from the place of insight or revelation or what? Or just guessing? Let me know. Oh my God, that's very correct. So, Lionel Messi is his hero and currently playing for Inter Miami now. Above all, he's a man that fears God, and he's a man that has a lot to offer us this morning. And with a standing ovation, I hope you all are standing. Can we welcome Mr. Mayokun?
I am standing and I am clapping.
Oh yes, I'm doing the same thing. Mr. Mayokun, Dr. Dansu, so we are joining us after now.
It's okay, let's just move on, no problems.
Okay, all right, okay, it's okay, all right.
Thanks.
So Mr. Mayokun, you have the floor. Oh.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to turn on my video. I'm hoping that, that helps people a little bit to stay more engaged. And first of all, I'd like to say for the people typing or who guessed Ronaldo, I'm so sorry, it's not Ronaldo. I was just, at the very last minute was when I changed my mind about what I was going to wear. I was literally going to wear a Messi jersey, but I thought, would pipe it down. But yeah, it's Messi every day, all day. May God have mercy on us.
Amen.
Amen.
You know, that's one of the things. You cannot say may God have Ronaldo on us, can you? But
I love that.
right. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm thankful for everyone who is here, and I'm thankful for this platform. I think that it's doing something great.
Only men are in this meeting.
No, so if you're the only lady, I would say maybe you're the only lady for now, because we did, make it open for all other ladies to join us. So you're very much welcome.
You're surely not the only lady. I think I saw one other person. We're expecting Clementina. So even if you're the only one, just relax. We don't bite.
Alexa, sorry. I mean, that's my wife. She's here. I mean,
oh, lovely. Wow, interesting. That's Blessing Jeremiah,
welcome.
right?
Blessing Jeremiah, yeah.
Thank you for coming,
Blessing. He's a blessing, all right. Rest assured.
Nice.
Thank you. So, yeah, I'm very thankful for you guys for turning up, and I'm really hoping, I took time to listen to what the expectations are for the number of people, and I'm hoping that God helping me, I'll be able to meet those expectations. So, let's jump right in. Does spirituality matter? I think that's a very poignant question, because first of all, it assumes that the phenomenon that we are talking about is a real thing to start with. So we're trying to deal first with the reality of it, spiritual reality, and then to even get to the point of whether it matters. So let's take a deep dive. Let's dive into that. If you could go to the first slide, please. So this is just a very brief overview of how I'd like us to cover this topic. First, I'll talk about the human nature, the fact that we're having a tripartite existence, and then I will try to validate the spiritual for us. And then I will talk about why I believe it matters, because my answer to that question of whether it matters is a straight yes. But I will try to explain to you why I think it does. And then, of course, I will delve into spirituality and life's big questions, spirituality and relationships, spirituality, success, joy, and pain, spirituality and mortality, and then my concluding thoughts. If you could go to the next slide, please. Okay, so we'll start with the human nature, a tripartite experience. So what I wanted to do when I got this topic and I was trying to put it together is, now I know that this is a gathering of intellectuals, and highly intelligent people, and I wanted to come to this topic from two angles. First, from a logical angle, and then from a spiritual angle, because I did not want to make the assumption that everybody practiced the same faith as I do. I do not want to make the assumption, as a matter of fact, that everybody believes in the idea of faith. So I wanted to just bring it on from that point to say, the human experience, the human nature, it's body, soul, and spirit. Now, nobody argues about the fact that we have a body. Nobody argues about the fact that we have a soul, because we can see our bodies and we can feel our souls and we can feel the souls of other people. The argument has always just been whether the spiritual realm is an actual thing, right? That's what the question has always been, and I put a quote there by Pierre Chardin, who is a 20th century mystic, where he said something about, are we spirits having a human experience, or are we humans having a spiritual experience? And I think that's a very important question. There was another philosopher, the name skips me now, but it's the guy who came up with the cogito ergo sum, which is, I think, therefore I am. And, it came out of an experience where he said, I had a dream. I slept and I had a dream that I was a butterfly. And then he said, but wait, how do I really know that I am not a butterfly dreaming that I'm a human? And for everybody here, right, do you think you can answer that question? Do you think you know for sure that you sitting right here, right now, listening to this, is your real experience and not your dreaming experience. I'm sure you think you know for sure, but let's not, let's not dabble into that. So he said, I slept and I had a dream that I was a butterfly. But how am I sure that I'm actually not a butterfly right now that I've woken up? How am I sure that in this awakened state, I am not a butterfly I am not a human dreaming. I'm sorry, I'm not a butterfly dreaming that I am human. He said, well, I don't have the answer to that. Maybe I'm a butterfly dreaming I'm a human, or maybe I'm human dreaming as a butterfly. The only thing that is constant is that I am thinking about it. So I think, therefore I am. He said, now, thank you, John Bull. He put it there in the comment section. Rainy Descartes. He said, I think, therefore I am. So yes, maybe I cannot validate if I'm really a butterfly, dreaming of having a human experience. And maybe I really cannot tell whether I'm a human having a butterfly experience. But one thing I can tell, I am going through this thought process. This thought process is going through my mind. I am having this idea of what am I? So at least I know that I exist. I am thinking, therefore I exist. So that's the meaning of that cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Now, so the other barrier that I see that people face when we try to talk about spirituality and when we talk about the fact that does it matter is the fact that, but I cannot see it, right? I can't see the spiritual. I can see the physical. I can experience the emotional, which is in the realms of the soul. But I can't see, and other people can experience that with me, but I can't see the spiritual, therefore maybe that doesn't exist. Well, I believe for most people in this meeting, we already know that that's actually even a weak logical argument, because many of the things that you experience, you don't see, and yet you believe it, right? So if you could go to the next slide, please. All right, so validating the spiritual. The spiritual, I said, would not always be proven empirically, but it doesn't mean it still doesn't exist. And, one thing I want to say about that, for instance, is we all have the dreams that I talked about, right? It's not a physical experience, and it's not an emotional experience, because you cannot exactly relate with the dream of another person the way you can relate with the feeling of another person. But we all know that dreams exist. And we also know something called premonitions. There are things that we relate to that we don't see them, and we have all manner of languages for them. Just the fact that, oh, I don't see the spiritual, therefore it's not true, is a weak argument, even logically. And I wanted to talk about the story of a lady called Sapir Cohen. She's an Israeli lady who, in October of 2023, with her boyfriend Sasha, were trying to make a decision of whether to go visit their parents in an Israeli city called Kibbutz. And the week before they went, her boyfriend Sasha said, it doesn't just feel like going. And she convinced him. And she said, but you should go. We already told your parents will come in. They're going to be disappointed and all. But he just did not feel like going. He just felt like, I really don't want to go. Well, with the pressure of his girlfriend, he eventually gave in and he went. Now, the morning they were supposed to go, he still felt very strongly about not going. And he had never felt that way before. And, again, his girlfriend pressured him. And they went. To cut the long story short, they were in kibbutz on the morning of October 7th when terrorists from a Hamas group invaded Israel and caused the mayhem that they did. They captured her, captured her boyfriend, killed him, and took her into a stage. And she was there for, I believe, about 55 days. This person, as far as I know, is necessarily not religious. However, if you ask that guy today and that girl, because the only thing they had was the week they were supposed to make that journey, it just didn't feel like it. That's the word. And she pressured. And I said, if you ask that lady right now, does spirituality matter? I think most of us can get our answer, can guess what our answer is going to be. Because if something can literally be the deciding point between whether you'll be here today or be dead in the next 24 hours, I think you would answer that it does matter, no matter what you think, right? And I think that story was just a very strong one in my mind as an answer to the question of, does spirituality matter? I'm careful again at this point yet not to make it about a certain religion or a certain faith, but I'm establishing the fact that there is a part of the human experience that is not explained by physical reality and that is not explained by emotional reality, but that it still exists. We know it's there. So again, to emphasize, the argument that I do not see the spirit, therefore it does not exist, is logically unsound. It does exist. But let's take that a step further and say, even if it's not for something outside of our physical reality, it's just what is the spiritual anyway? What does it matter if there is another level of life that why should I engage in it? I'm cool with what happens in my physical reality and all of that. Why should I engage in another level of life? Well, it's because spirituality also has impact on even our here and now. And that's what I want to show to us next. If you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you very much. So, I said, even if you have doubts about the afterlife, it influences how we live because, and I haven't emphasized the fact that just because we cannot see the spiritual does not mean that it doesn't exist. Most of the things that, in fact, I need to touch on something, when people come from a scientific worldview and they try to use that, it's such a weak argument, even in that worldview. You know why? Even in our physical reality, the sum total of the things we scientifically understand and can explain only makes up about, in the universe, in the observable universe, only makes up about 4%. I'll put that again. The things we can understand, that we now understand, that science understands, things like electromagnetic fields, things like atoms, molecules, electricity, gravity, all that kind of stuff in the realm of physics. Only the impact it has on our universe and how our universe operates and behaves is only 4%. The things that have 96% impact on how our universe behaves is dark energy and dark matter, and science doesn't understand much about it. And I know there are scientists in the room who can bear me witness. We know they exist. As a matter of fact, dark matter, I believe, accounts for 85% of gravity. Dark energy accounts for over 90% of why we have an ever-expanding universe. So we know that gravity exists. We don't see it. But the force that accounts for 85% of why it exists, we don't see it and we can't even understand it, but we know it's there. And that's why we call it dark. The energy that is responsible for the expansion of our universe, that we know that our universe is expanding, and even scientifically is eventually going to expand until, it blows up, as it were, no matter the millions of years they say that is. The forces behind them, we don't have mathematical and physics explanations for them. It is just illogical for anybody to try to come from a scientific worldview to say, if we can't see it, then it doesn't exist. It simply isn't true. And that applies to spirituality. Okay? Now, So I say that another reason why it's essential, it's because it affects our here and now, is how, spirituality and the understanding that there is something beyond our physical reality affect the way we deal with issues of life. But before I go into that, I want to touch on a few things about spirituality. I did put here that there is the simple difference, largely, between the spiritual and the physical is a difference of frequencies. Now, make of that whatever you want to make of it, whatever you call the frequency. But I'm saying, even in the world of physics, we understand that there are things we see and there are things we don't see, like microwaves, right? So when you put food in the microwave and you heat it up, you don't see where the heat is coming from. But when you get your plate out of it, it is hot. You don't feel the heat. If you put your hands in the microwave, it's not going to burn you. But you're going to come out with a plate of sizzling hot food. We don't see when you go into the hospital and someone takes an x-ray, you don't see the thing that is capturing you. You don't see anything, but it pierces through your skin, goes into your body, and brings out an image that you have never seen and shows it to the world and say that's what's there. The difference between microwaves, gamma rays, X-rays, all of this kind of stuff is frequencies. They operate on different frequencies such that the instrument needed to engage them, to see them, not see physically, but at least to experience them, then has to be custom fit to see that. You don't see protons, neutrons, and electrons, but they power our entire houses and streets and industries. But you're never going to see them, but you can touch them. They were conducted. In the life wire, there is something inside of it. You know that very much. If you put it off, if you turn that thing off from the electrical office, what you're seeing, that cable just becomes nothing other than a cable. So we know the issue is not the cable. If it has an insulation around it, we know that the rubber is not the issue. If something is not turned on somewhere, that same medium that you're seeing is just what it is. It's a medium. However, the moment somebody switches something on, something goes through it that we cannot see, but best believe you will feel if you touch it anyhow. The spirituality spirituality as a whole, the spiritual and the physical, the difference between them is frequencies. The fire that from the fire you make out of wood and stuff like that, you can see it. It is visible to your naked eye. You see how it heats up your food and how it heats up your water. It exists. But the one that comes from the microwave, you don't see it. It also exists. What's the difference? Frequencies. And I think that that's one thing I want us to keep in mind as we go. That what you experience spiritually is going to be solely based on the frequency on which you operate. What you experience spiritually is going to be solely based on the frequency on which you operate. So I said I was going to talk about, to emphasize that, I was going to talk about my Barcelona versus Liverpool story. In Champions League of 2015, I believe it was. If I'm wrong, maybe it's 2016. But it was, I think it was 2016, Champions League. Liverpool had come over to Barcelona in Spain, and they had received a thorough thrashing with Lionel Messi once again scoring one of the greatest goals in history, that deft free kick that he scored. And we were leading 3-0. Well, 2 weeks after that, Barcelona went to Anfield. And for those of you that know that story, you can say something about it in the comment section. What a game it was. Yeah, it was really good. And, we knew that in order for us to advance to the next stage, we needed to ensure that at least they do not score up to 3 goals, and definitely they don't score 4 goals, because now they would have more goals than us. Well, I sat on my seat with my hand, literally with my heart in my mouth, and then the first goal went in. And then the second goal went in. And then the third goal went in. And now it was 3-3. Now, I was watching the game on TV. At the same time, my friends in a particular group chat were commenting on the game, right? So I was watching the game with bated breath. And then all of a sudden, somebody said on the group chat, somebody then said, "Oh my God, they scored 4." On my screen, it was still 3-3. But somebody typed in the group chat and said, "Oh my God, they scored 4." Well, a few seconds later, I saw the 4th goal. And it registered in my spirit at that time that the difference between where that person was and where I was the frequency. They received that thing earlier because of a higher frequency where they operated. Now, that's relevant to many of the things I will still say, further down in the course of this conversation. But I think that was such a great lesson, especially for many of us who have a bit of a problem. And this is true for most people. And now I'm beginning to drill down to the certain faith, Christianity. When we struggle, when we pray for certain things, and because we have not seen them yet, we assume that we don't have answers or God has not listened to us. A lot of times, the difference between your prayers when they are answered and when you receive them is the frequency. There was nothing I could do that day to make sure that 4th goal did not go in reality. If there was, I would have done it, but it had gone in. I had only not seen it. A lot of times, the difference between what happens in the spiritual and the physical is the lag in the frequency. Let's move on to the next row. Okay, so now I'm drilling down. I haven't tried to establish the fact that, spirituality does have, it's an actual experience, it's a true experience, whether you see it or not, it's a true experience. And haven't drilled to the fact that it is important. It controls even the physical realm. Things that happen there flow and find their way into the physical realm. Now I have to establish at this point that there are different ways that people experience spirituality. I don't experience spirituality in all of these ways, so I'm not able to speak to them all, right? But I'm able to speak to the spirituality that I experience. Like I wrote in my book, I believe in the intelligent design, and I believe in an intelligent designer of the universe. Well, that's just a high-sounding way to say I believe in the God of the Bible. So yes, I'm a Christian. And spirituality as I experience it from the Christian point of view. And so one of the things that spirituality does for me as a Christian is that it helps me to answer life's big questions. And I believe that there are 4 of those big questions. One is the question of origin. Where do we come from? The next is a question of meaning. What is that to me? Is there meaning to all of this? The next is a question of purpose, and the next is a question of destination. So origin, meaning, purpose, and definition. Of course, again, from the Christian viewpoint, we originated from God, right? And as a matter of fact, some science, not all of it, it's disputed, but some science actually agrees with that. I believe that it was a research done a few years ago by some scientists in a university in Switzerland and Rockefeller University. And they say they believe that all modern humans are traceable to two humans who lived 100,000 to 200,000 years ago. Okay. It was sort of a new thought in science at the time. Of course, the hypothesis had always been there, but these guys felt like they now had the answer. Now that's still disputed, all right? It's science, so it has to be disputed until it's beyond reasonable doubt. But just to say that the story of the Bible, of how we came about, the origin of man, does have a side of science, an angle of science that agrees with it. Now, you cannot put your faith in science, because I need to say on a light note that this same science also then suggests that these two humans, the first two humans with whom all humans today share DNA or came from, were also the progenitors of 9 different animals. So I don't know if you want to place your faith just in the science of it, you would have to struggle with that, and you have to find a way to explain how we came from, how 9 other animal species came from those two people. Okay, but let's just keep it with the fact that we believe in the kind of faith that we practice, that humans came from these two people. So yes, we trace our origin to God as the beginning of all things, and obviously as the creator of all things, and therefore as our creator. And that's important, because now we move on to the purpose of meaning, right? I mean, the essence of meaning. It's okay, to what point? Why are we here? And this is again important, because you have to understand that if there is no spirituality, if there is nothing beyond us, if we're just a clump of cells that form together and everything on earth is, then there is no reason to think about these things, right? Because you just came together as a sum total of some cells that would eventually disintegrate. Then there's no meaning to you. But most people, even atheists, even people that don't have faith, most people believe that there is more to the human life, that there is potentially a purpose to them. I'm saying people who don't even accept any faith. The point is, it would be useless. It would be a moot point if there is no spirituality. There is no meaning, there's no purpose, there's no origin, there's no destination. We're just cells that come, decompose, go. The only reason as humans we have a sense that tries to figure out, that questions within us, within our heart, how am I here? Why am I here? What am I doing here? What happens after now? That in itself, those questions themselves, point to the reality of the spiritual. Again, I think, therefore I am. The things that are not spiritual, your chicken is not thinking about where did I come from? What am I here to do? And what's going to happen to me after now? The fact that we have those questions ourselves point to the fact that there is more to our physical reality. There is more that goes beyond our emotional reality. And spirituality is the only thing that answers these questions. So meaning, what is the meaning to my life? How am I valuable? Well, from my viewpoint, my worldview as a Christian, it says that for you have created all things, and for thy pleasure they are, and they are well created. That tallies for me with the idea that when God created us, he created us in our image. The concept of image, the idea of image, if you think about it, when someone draws your image, or no, let me make an example, a more romantic example. I want to believe that Mr. Viyon, as we speak, probably has an image of Mrs. Blessing on his office desk, right? Or somewhere around him. Well, if I could ask you, why do you have that image there?
Oh my, I love this. Of course, to admire art time and again.
To admire. That's exactly what I think. That's the image. That's the reason I would have the image of my woman on my screen. And that makes me question, why did God slap his image on us? Could it be that it's in order for him to be able to look upon man and have pleasure, to be able to look upon man and have admiration? You can't see your own image, but I'm not saying that's how God is created. God does not have our own physical reality. But the point is, any image that you place before yourself, the idea is for you to be able to admire that image. This lines up for me in the worldview that I share, that the reason God created us, created man in his image, is to be able to look upon us with desire, is to be able to look upon man with admiration. The reason our life has meaning, the reason our life has worth is because there is an image on it. It is an image of someone. It is an image of something. And that thing, that one, that being is God. There is meaning to your life. There is worth to it because it's an image of God. And God placed it there in order to look upon you in admiration. And of course, what's the purpose to life? Why are we here? What am I here for? And, I try to put in that quote there that says that I'd seen a quote that said the two most important dates in your life is the day you find out, the day you were born and the day you find out why. There's a question of purpose. Why am I here? How does my worldview as a Christian answer that? In many ways. But again, the Bible, obviously, is what we read. Time and again, God will tell people, before you were made, I knew you. And before you were formed in your mother's womb, I called you. The icon of our faith, the central figure of our faith, eternally, Christ Jesus himself. When he was born and when he started his ministry, he walked into a temple, took a scroll that was written by prophets who themselves were told that before they were born, they were known and they were called for a certain purpose. They scribbled down prophecies. Christ walked on earth, walked into the temple, opened up a scroll and said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me. He read the prophecy that was foretold about him hundreds of years ago. It is pertinent upon our faith to understand that there is a purpose upon our lives, and the most important date of our own reality is the day we find out why. And of course, lastly, is the question of definition or destination. What happens after now? Where do I go? Whitney Houston sang a song, where do broken hearts go? Well, I think the question for us today is, where do spirits go? Where do we return to? Again, if there is no spirituality, there is no idea of return. There's no idea of destination. And it leaves a loop in the question of origin, meaning, and purpose. If I have an origin, if I emanate from a source, if there's a meaning and an inherent worth to my life as someone who bears an image that someone wants to look upon and admire, if there is a purpose for which I'm born and it's all done, and then there is no end to it, it leaves a loop that is not closed. So obviously, it answers the question of destination. From him we came, and from him to him we shall return. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, So now, the first thing we talked about spirituality and the big questions of life. Now we go to spirituality, and using the lens of spirituality, I want to touch on something that I think is also very important, which is relationships. And I really do feel inspired to talk about the idea of relationships. Spirituality is the reason why we perceive people on a level that is just different from just absolutely mundane or absolutely physical. Everybody in your life does not have the same value. Everybody does not have the same worth. Everybody does not have the same purpose. Spirituality is what helps you see beyond the ordinary and see why these people are in your life. Spirituality is important because it can save you and save your generation. I gave an example of the story of David and Jonathan. They were friends and they bonded as friends. But it was the friendship of David and Jonathan that saved the generation of Jonathan when Mephibosheth, who was the only surviving son of Jonathan, who himself had been crippled and was hiding when David had become king, because the household of Saul were afraid and they were going to be wiped out. But because of the covenant that he had with David asked for Mephibosheth to be called, and he replaced him. Now, the question I have is this. From a spiritual perspective, do you know the value of the people in your life? Or does everybody carry the same weight? You've heard things like destiny friendships, destiny relationships, and all those kind of stuff. Again, every human and every relationship will be on the same pedestal to you if you don't understand that a lot of times it goes beyond the ordinary. And you have to be spiritual. Now, I'm beginning to answer the questions of does spirituality matter? Well, if it is important for you to know these things, then it does matter, because without them, you would not be able to gain these insights. These are things that don't exist on the realms and the frequency of our physical reality. But you have to gain it, because it might be the difference between whether your life will go in a certain direction or another. Now, I was going to give us a personal story of the spiritual lens, as it were, and seeing into the spiritual. There's, whether you like it or not, and that's one of the things I've tried to emphasize over and over again, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you operate in it or not, spirituality exists and the spiritual realm exists. People play in that field. And if you don't understand the play in that field, you will be outplayed. It would impose on you. Because if you there's no vacuum and there's no neutrality in that space. That's the funny thing. I was in Nigeria earlier this year, and I was walking on the streets of Abuja, and a young man walked past me, and then he turned back to look at me, and he spoke to me in Yoruba. Again, this was on the streets of Abuja. So what are the odds, right? And he turned back and looked at me and he spoke to me in Yoruba. And he said, "Oh, I see something over you. And you need to pray. You need to essentially, you were speaking in Yoruba, and he said, you need to pray." And I said, "Thank you." And then he stopped and said, "I'm not asking you for money. I don't want money from you. But I believe that you need to take certain actions in order for your life to go in certain directions." Again, he was speaking in Yoruba, and I'm Yoruba, by the way, and I speak fluent Yoruba. I said, "Okay." Then he stops and walks back to me. And he says, "Just to emphasize to you again, I'm not asking you for money. But I see over your life that you should have exceeded where you are currently. But some things are blocking it. So you need to go and," the way he said it in Yoruba, I'll say it and I'll try to explain it in English. He said, "Ẹ ní láti lọ wẹ̀rí. Ẹ ní láti lọ wẹ̀rí. I said, okay. He said, and you might, which literally means you need to go and wash your head. I said, okay. And then I think he said something else, and at this point I decided to engage him. So I said, no, actually, I'm not doing that. He said that, oh, no. He said, Eni that lo bori. That was what he said. He said, Eni that lo bori, which means you will need to go and worship your head. That my head, which, if you understand how these things work in Yoruba and in the Southwest in Yoruba religion, there is the belief system that every human, everybody, your personal God, your personal deity is your head, as it were. Not physically, but there's something about your destiny, which is also called your head, Uri, and you need to figure out what is going on there to make progress in life. So he told me that I need that bori, and then I responded to him, also in Yoruba. I said, mi ò lè bori torí Ọlọ́run làwa ń bọ, which means I cannot worship my head because I already worship God. I only worship in one direction. And in any case, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm just trying to tell you, I'm just trying to explain to you, but that's just what. And I said, no problem, thank you. But yeah, we're not worshiping any head here. And I say that to say, as a matter of fact, that thing happened and I walked away from it. I was not flustered a bit. In fact, when I got to where I was going, I did not remember, and this was a distance of 5 or 10 minutes. I did not remember that happened until about a day or two later. And then when I was relaying the message, people were shocked. They were like, oh, and you didn't say anything about it and all of that. And now at this point, at the time it happened, right, I remember much better now. At the time it happened, I was at an event. So I stepped out of that event and I was at that event with my girlfriend. And then when I returned, I didn't say anything to it. And then about a day or two later, I remembered and I was saying the gist. And initially she was a bit flustered. And I was like, I didn't say anything about it. I said, well, because I didn't remember. I said that to say, and I explained, I said, I'm not saying he didn't see anything. Obviously, that guy operates in the spiritual. I don't know what he saw. He saw something. But the point is, you cannot impose it on me because I operate in that space too. Now, there is no, like we have said, there is no physical reality or emotional reality explanation of why you will meet somebody on the street somewhere in a town that is not indigenous to you guys, and they will turn around to you and they will speak a certain language that you understand. I am not doubting that this person saw something or felt something or had an insight into a portal. The only thing is I operate also in that frequency and beyond it. So you cannot impose on me. And sometimes that's the difference between why a prophet will tell you not to travel and you will not go anywhere. But okay, let's get back to our slides. If you could go to the next slide, please. All right. And yeah, I think this is my last slide. I was going to talk about spirituality's perspective on mortality. And I think this is important because I talked about spirituality as it dealt with life, origin, meaning, purpose, and destination, as it deals with relationships, as it deals with our world as we experience it, which is spiritual, and there are different insights to it and there are different frequencies, but there's an end to us. It's a topic we don't like to talk about, which is the topic of mortality and death, but it's as certain as the sun. But here is what I figured that spirituality helps you to do with the concept of mortality is the idea that it helps you to have peace about it because it helps you to have a say. I'm trying to say this as carefully as possible because I don't want to pass the wrong message. But at the same time, I have to pass the true message. Again, from the worldview of a Christian, what I experienced in the Bible is that people had a say even in their own death when they are able to glean into the spiritual. people had the say, sometimes even up to the extent of whether they want to live or die. And I'll give you examples. Hezekiah was a king that a prophet went to tell that because he had sinned against God and he had caused the land to walk in unrighteous ways, he was going to die. He repented and asked God to extend his life, and he did. The second example, when Jesus was born and he was brought into the temple, there was Anna and Simeon. He was. And the Bible said that it had been revealed to them that they should not see death until they see the Messiah. And they did not see death. And when Christ was brought into the temple and he was offered, I believe it was Simeon that then prayed and said, now his eyes have seen the Messiah and he could go. And he said that night he slept. The third example I'm going to give is the example of Paul. Paul said, I am torn between staying and leaving. Because if I stay, it is beneficial to you. But if I leave, it is beneficial to me. However, because it is beneficial to you, I have chosen to stay. And he stayed, and he didn't die. These three examples always stick out to me in scripture as to how a man or people could live their life in the fullness of such understanding, again, in a certain level of frequency, that they have a certain degree of say in their own death. Spirituality affects your mortality, and it gives you an opportunity to have a say in it. And what that does is it helps you have peace about it. Now, the only caveat I wanted to add was what I've always also said is when people operate in that frequency, they essentially don't appropriate it to themselves and to their selfishness. Because otherwise, Paul's willingness to live would have caused him to say he wanted to live till 120. Well, that was not his goal. He didn't live that long. Secondly, he didn't die a good death, as it were. He died a martyr. Nonetheless, the point is, spirituality helps you to have peace about the life you're living and about when you eventually exit the world that you live. And I think this is my last slide, and I hope that this helps. I will take comments and I will take questions. Thank you.
My God. Wow. It's gonna take me an eternity to process all of these thoughts. Deep thoughts, deep thoughts. Oh my, can we have emojis in the, I mean, communicate how you've been blessed by Mr. Mayokun in the chat box. Let's get your messages. I'm ready to read all of this now. Wow. Thank you for the emojis. Oh my God, this has been so insightful. This has been so insightful, so explosive. Oh my, really enlightened as expected. Okay. Oh my. I was so blessed. I was amazing. This is so insightful and practical. Oh, fire. So he was on fire, right? Mr. Mayok was on fire. He set the house literally on fire. Oh, let's take up, everyone, please. I'm still trying to process all of the information. It's going to take an eternity for me to process all of these things. I mean, thank you for coming in a direction I never even thought of. Oh my, I mean, your words were kind of, even if you had the likes of Stephen Hawkins on this call, will have been persuaded that, yes, truly. These things are so true, illuminating, okay? More comments in the chat box, please, illuminating. Let's encourage our teacher this morning. It's been so insightful for me. My God. Wow. Do you have questions? Do we have questions? Where do we start from now?
So I have a few questions that had come in from the Google Forms.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
So okay. I'll just take some of that and then if there is any other ones, we'll take it. So okay. I think the first question says, what does it mean to be over spiritual? He said, give me 1 minute. I'm just going to read that exactly the way it was sent.
Do you want to just copy this on the chat box for us also to engage with? I mean, just to see it.
Okay, I'm not sure if EJD can help us with that because I have it on my phone.
So if it's not possible, never mind, just go ahead, please.
Okay. So the first question says, I want to understand what it means to be over spiritual. I would need your personal comment and general comment you can give on that question. You know, I really thought about that question because I think I understood where it was coming from. And the straight answer to that, what does it mean to be over spiritual? Nothing. That doesn't mean anything. And I will explain to you why I think it doesn't mean anything. What does it mean to be over physical? Can you be over physical? You see, when people talk about spirituality and being over spiritual, a lot of times it's also still because we don't yet fully understand the concept of the fact that of the concept of our tripartite nature. We are fully human in the physical, fully human in the soul, and fully human in the spirit. You cannot be over physical. You cannot be over spiritual. There is a composite, full, complete spiritual individuality to you. What people many times term as over spiritual is some people's level of awareness or devotion to their spiritual side. And many times it's because, and let's be honest, many times it's because people are uncomfortable with your level of awareness and your level of engagement of the spiritual, then they say that person is over spiritual. However, some people who actually may also appear as being over spiritual may be doing it even also because they do not yet fully understand how to appropriate your entire human experience. You are 100% spirit and 100% human. Your physical space, your physical reality is dealt with your physical experience. Your spiritual space is dealt with your spiritual experience, and it influences your physical experience. So now let's bring it home and drive it practical. As a Christian, if someone says good morning to you, it is not right for you to respond to them in tongues. Nobody understands that. Even in the Bible, Paul himself said it, that when they all come, everybody should not be speaking in tongues. If somebody is speaking in tongues, another person should be interpreting. Even in, within a spiritual setting, within a church setting and stuff like that, there's got to be order. There's got to be understanding. Otherwise, it's worthless, right? So if it's there, I understand that sometimes people can be spooky about their spirituality and all of that. A lot of times it's just, and I say this not to criticize, a lot of times it's just a little bit of, not fully understanding yet how to appropriate both sides. Many people outgrow it. Some people don't, I understand, but a lot of times many people outgrow it, right? But in the real sense that I try to establish there's nothing like being over spiritual, because you cannot be over physical. You cannot go over what is already there. There's already a mark to it. The issue is your awareness of it and your devotion to it. So obviously, you live in a room, or you live in a place, or you live in a house where, because of your value systems, which are birthed out of your spiritual experience and your spiritual journey and walk, people say you are over spiritual. If you say a truth where everybody else says a lie, if you decide to not compromise something that everybody is compromising, then you're over spiritual. No, you're not over spiritual. You're living your spiritual life, your real spiritual experience. That's what you're doing. And yes, just as a child, when you're growing up, a child doesn't fully understand their physical experience, and there's a lot of falling, there's a lot of dumb questions, there's a lot of that. It also happens in the spiritual, because the spiritual also grows. There's maturity that also happens there. You know, there's process, there's growth, there's expansion. And yeah, some people at a certain stage of their spiritual life will appropriate it in a way that other people find to be over spiritual because they don't know how better to. But, you know, it's possible for you to outgrow it. So I think that I say that to just say that I don't think that a lot of times it's very helpful to give a lot of energy to trying not to be over spiritual. I think what you really should do is try to give energy to trying to be knowledgeable and balanced, but please do not let anybody guilt trip you because of your stand out of the value systems that correlate with your spiritual being. Okay, Joshua said you used to communicate in tongues in Secretariat back in town. Well, all right. Okay. All right. And then I think I have another question that says, between spirituality and education, which should be taken more seriously, and which of the two is weightier in the journey of destiny and fulfillment? I think that that's a very interesting question. That's a very interesting question. But, you know, in that question itself is something that helped me to gain a certain light and a certain insight, which is in the journey of destiny and fulfillment. You know, the story, I read the story of the Beatles. And if most of you will probably know their story, they're about the most successful group, you know, musical group of their time, if not up until this time. Crazily successful. Sold out all their shows, made a lot of money and stuff. But there's a story of one of those guys in the Beatles who was extremely talented, and he fell out, I think, with the group. And so he started doing his own thing. He was extremely successful too, made all the money, was potentially just as rich, just as popular, just as successful, just everything. But it was never fulfilled. And he died that way because he was always comparing his success with the rest of the guys. I say that to say that I think that the answer to this question for me emanates from such human experiences. Yeah, I think it was probably John Lennon. Yeah, I think that that's who he was. It emanates from those kind of experiences. When people get to the peak of their pursuits in life, whatever that is, educational, financial, you know, whatever success means to them, you can acquire all of it and still be unfulfilled. So that helped me to answer the question myself when I was going through it, which is weightier in the journey of destiny and fulfillment. It's got to be spirituality. And the reason is that spirituality, you know, it lights you. It gives you a light. It also guides you, and it also grounds you. Spirituality gives you a sense of purpose to what you're doing. It gives you a sense of worth. It gives you a sense of meaning. It gives you a sense of direction. All of that, people have gotten to the end of their lives with their high educations, with their extremely high net worths, with their extremely great inventions, and just still felt like they were nothing. So education, obviously, without question, is extremely important. Extremely important. But when you say which is weightier to destiny and fulfillment, I believe that spirituality on top of your education has that ability to give you light, to give you direction, and to give you a grounding in your person, in who you are. in what you believe in, and such that it would not matter what you have achieved or not achieved, your sense of self-worth, your sense of fulfillment, your sense of purpose will come from that, would be my question, and would be my answer. I'm sorry. And then I think the other question I have here is, how do you know when to listen to God and when to use your brain and creativity? That I also find very interesting. I like this quote by Bishop David Oyedepo. He said, God gave man brain so that man can give him rest. I believe that everything within the realm of our human intelligence, this is a cracking me up. Everything within the realm of our human intelligence that the human brain has answered for us, or the human brain has the ability to answer for us, that's God's answer to us. That's my personal belief, right? Everything that the human brain has answered for us, or that it has the capacity to answer for us, that is God's answer for us, or to us in those situations. Now, in your personal walk, and as you experience life, are there times when your brain or your mind will be telling you to do something, and your spirit and God will be telling you to do another thing? Yes. In those cases, there's no question. There's no question. Just follow God. We know when you walk with God that there will be certain circumstances, there will be instances where it does not make sense, in the sense of, if you logically think about it, you will struggle more if you're an intellectual. A lot of people here are intellectuals there, even those in the ministry and all of that. You'll struggle more with a lot of things. It doesn't make sense. But I heard a statement somewhere. It says, God does not make sense. God makes God. Because if it's God who has said it, then it is God who has said it. Simple. It doesn't matter if it makes sense to you. And if you have a walk with God, you will understand that, and you will know that. And of course, you should definitely seek to appropriate that in such a way that that becomes your highest goal. As a matter of fact, will be to go be God in everything, even when it doesn't make sense to your natural man. But having established that, for many other things that we deal with in our everyday life, like I said, anything that God has given us brain to process, and we are able to process it, and we don't feel any pushback in our spirit or an actual instruction from God in that direction, that is God's answer to you. I hope that answers the question of, how do you know when to listen to God and when to use your brain? And the last question, no, second to last, who created God? I'll have to make this one the last one. So I'll jump it. And I'll go to, how can one be in togetherness with faith? I tried to make sure that I understood that question, but the best way I understand it, and in case the person who asked it is here and they want to give any clarity, please go ahead. But the best way I understand that question is, sometimes you're in conflict with faith. Faith, which is the way it's defined in my worldview as a Christian, the assurance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. Our journey as Christians in itself is a journey of faith. And there would be many times that you would need to believe against what you see, what you experience, what you feel. And so it seems to me that this question is saying, sometimes there seems to be a dissonance between where my mind is, where I am, and faith. So how can I be in togetherness with faith? I think that just to answer that question as quickly as possible would be to say that that's the experience of all of us. It's the experience that because we have a fully, a fully birthed human experience, we have our full brain, we have our minds, we live in a physical reality. A lot of times we struggle with that which our faith is supposed to birth. So you're not alone, right? But I'd quoted that place. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. Because he that must come to God must believe that he is, and that he is the rewarder of those who diligently seek him. The way to be one in togetherness with faith, is to, I don't want to make this like a moot point, but I would say that is to have faith, and I know that sounds like a moot point as it were, but maybe it actually leads to what we were talking about before. There are times when it does not make sense, but God does not make sense. God makes God. It would never make sense that after you have waited on God for a particular promise of Isaac, and after all the drama that has caused in your life, then the child is 14 and God says, go sacrifice him. But it will never make sense. There are those kind of instances that will not make sense. But it will be the way to be together in the faith would be to go all the same. The way to be togetherness in faith is actually, in quote, to live on the contrary. You might never get to the point. You might on certain issues, but you might not get to the point on every issue where your faith and going ahead and doing that thing in faith is always in tandem with your feeling. The way to be together in togetherness with faith is to go with your faith regardless. If you feel something about it, that does not mean you don't have faith. It just means your physical reality is also expressing itself. But the fact that your physical reality expresses itself in doubt does not mean you're not in togetherness. The way to ensure that you are in togetherness is to go in the line of faith anyways, irrespective of how you feel about it. Okay, and this last question that I'm going to take, which is interesting, says, who created God? How did God create himself? And what was there before God? Well, for someone who was born, less than, who was born in this generation, is interesting that I'm being asked the question of who created God and where did he come from. But I understand the crux of this question. This is a crux of the question for many people who struggle with faith and who struggle with the idea of God. And I have asked this question myself. And so I'm just going to try to put together my thoughts in a way that, as much as possible, helps to deliver this. Now, in asking the question, just to ask the question, who created God and where did God come from? That question itself assumes that God needed a creator. That's the first thing. That question itself assumes, and it's understandable why that assumption is there, because everything you can see comes from something. Everything we can observe, totally everything we can observe is from something. And even some of the things that, we observe at certain frequencies, they all come from something. Okay. So, but here's the problem with that. That question can keep getting rolled back. And I'm sure like many of you know the idea of what came first, the chicken or the egg. You can keep rolling it back. Because if you say the chicken came, if you see a chicken, it came from an egg, right? But that egg came from a chicken. So there was a chicken before the egg and that chicken. So if you go back to that chicken now, the second chicken, well, where did that chicken come? It came from an egg. And then before that is a chicken. So it's an endless loop. Where did the chicken come from? Did the egg come from the chicken or the chicken came from the egg? What was the first one is the question. If you say it all started from a particular chicken, chickens come from egg. That first chicken, where did it come from? It must have come from an egg. Okay, so where did that first egg come from? That's the same thing with this question of where did God come from? You can keep rolling it back. But here's the thing. To assume that God came from something is to assume that matter, energy, space, and time already existed before God. Because everything that we see and we observe that we can then point to as coming from something, right, exists in space, in this world. It exists as something, as matter. So whether that is a human being or a goat or a tree, it is matter. It occupies a space. There is energy, latency in it. Either it's potential or kinetic that makes it operational. Matter, energy, space, and time. It exists in a certain time, like you and I do now. The only way matter, energy, space, and time can actually exist is for what created it to have come out of matter, energy, space, and time. And this is consistent also with science. If you get what I'm trying to say, I'm answering the question, who created God and where did he come from? There is no way that those things would exist, matter, energy, space, and time. There is no way that they would exist of themselves. There is no way they would evolve themselves. Something had to have caused it. And the only thing that could cause it has to have been outside of it. And that's consistent again with my worldview. The explanation of where it all began. In the beginning, God. God is the only thing that did not have a beginning, because the beginning needed God to begin. If God had a beginning, it would have begun inside of something. And so the question again would be, what began that thing? God does not need energy, matter, energy, space, and time to exist. Matter, energy, space, and time needs God to exist. The only way these things would ever exist if there was a reality beyond it. Now, understandably, this is usually very high-sounding thoughts, but I read something where it helps people to break it down. The computer you're using, the person who created that computer, or your phones, the person who created that phone or computer is not inside that phone. They exist outside of it. So it's like for the apparatuses on your phone to then to somehow know that you created them, and then to doubt your existence because your existence does not start and end within the phone. Another example, which I think is the most illuminating one that I had, is imagine an author. You write a book. Then you write characters into the book, right? You write the characters of the book. And then you publish the book. Imagine that in a way you are able to animate those characters and they come alive. Now, those characters, you who wrote the book, from the first page, know what happens in chapter 3. You know what happens in chapter 5. You know what character dies in chapter 8. You know what goes on in chapter 12. You know what goes on in the last chapter of that book. That book exists because you exist. You are the causation of that book. That book cannot cause you. But it is now like the characters in that book saying that, now let's say you then write yourself into the book, right? Let's say I write a book, I write characters about it, and in a way to introduce myself to the characters of the book, I make myself a character, which is what God did in the story of Christ. He wrote himself into the character of humanity. Now, for those people to then, so there was an avenue by which God introduced himself to us, which was that he wrote himself into the story. But it does not take away from the fact that the story in itself exists fully from the first chapter to the last, without needing for the writer of the story to be caused by the story. The writer of the story caused the story. The writer of the story does not need to be caused by the story. God is the writer of the story of creation that does not need to be caused by creation. He is the creator. And as mind-blowing as it is, because that's what happens, it's that our minds, again, remember, the person who writes the story, the author, our minds are written in this story to be finite and not be able to fully comprehend it all. That's why it is truly mind-blowing to think that something exists outside of matter, energy, space, and time. But that is exactly how our character was written. And you know why I know? Even logically, I mentioned it earlier, that even the physical world that we have, that we see, that we know, of all the things we understand, electromagnetics, magnetism, frequencies, rays, waves, all of that, they constitute 4% of the effect on the world, on the universe. Dark matter and dark energy operates 96%. It is consistent with what the Bible said to me. God has placed eternity in the heart of man. It is the honor of a king to hide a thing. It is the honor of the sons to search it. The fact that our minds cannot comprehend stuff altogether and we continue to search it seems to me like the consistent story of the human experience as what is consistent with the Bible. There is no cause to God. God operates, exists outside of the cause because he himself is the causative agent. Is the best answer I can honestly give to that. Thank you.
Wow. Oh my God. Wow. God is the writer, causative agent. In him we live, we move, and have our being. We are also of his offspring. He has placed eternity in the heart of man. It's the glory of a king to hide something, and it's our honor to search it out. Mr. Mayokun, wow. Oh my God. I don't know where to start from. This has been so insightful and powerful. You set the house on fire. Oh, we celebrate God's grace upon you. Oh, I'm not
Sorry,
sure we
can I ask a question?
Yeah,
I mean,
yes,
arising from one of the initial talks we had, I mean, these are legitimate questions I've all had to previously. Like, somebody was raising this issue about whether the God of Africa is different from the God abroad, right? Like certain things you aren't doing when you're in Nigeria, you get abroad and you start doing them and things like that. That's one. And another one which I think may tie up with it would be this idea of, you said that people should get the truth, right? But the question is, there's this idea of, okay, for instance, in particular, another talk about the person is something about wearing trousers. Some people believe that wearing trousers is if you wear trousers, you are going to hell and things like that. And some other people don't believe, and everybody is working with the same Bible. So, I mean, how do we reconcile these kind of issues?
Okay, yeah, I think the quick answer I want to give to that is these are really just doctrinal issues. And in the heart of sincerity and humility, it is necessary as Christians. I believe that question is coming from the Christian faith and someone who holds that worldview. It is necessary for us as Christians to have the humility to accept that there are things that are biblical and there are some things that are doctrinal. I'm not Anglican. I never have been, but I followed my cousins to an Anglican church, and it was the first time I heard the Nicene Creed, and where it talked about we believe in God, the creator of the heaven and earth. We believe in Jesus. We believe in the Holy Ghost. And I thought it was interesting, right? But as I grew and I understood the concept of church history and things that have happened, I began to see how the history of the Nicene Creed came and why it was necessary to say these things and things that people believed in. A lot of these things first of all, God is not different anywhere in the world. Is at least the God of the Bible, right? Is the God of the universe. However, there are doctrinal differences that become important for certain reasons, for one reason or the other. Then it is also possible for them to become outdated because they're doctrinal, right? It's it's just sometimes cultural, and they can come and go. But there's the way to the Father, the way to God is simple. It's stated. Those ones are in the Bible. God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. Whosoever believe in him will not perish, but have eternal life. We know that that's the way to eternal life. But the things about what we eat, what we wear, and all of that has always been questions of debate, even since Bible times. You remember the story of, I believe it was Peter, right? And when he had the vision, and God showed him stuff and so animals, and he was like, no, it's impure to eat that. And then the vision lifted, and then essentially God was telling him, it's a new era, boy, as it were. How they had issues between them and Paul on circumcision and no circumcision. Doctrinal issues has been with the church since the beginning of the church. They would always be with the church till the end of the church. We have to have the humility as Christians to draw the lines between what is doctrinal and what is scriptural. But what we know that is scriptural is that he that knows to do good, because a lot of times the questions will then come, okay, what about the things that the Bible does not spell out as to whether you should do or not do, whether it's a sin or not? He that knows to do good and does not do it, it is sin unto him. So it would not always, there are certain things other than the ones that are clearly laid out that would not be seen to everybody. But if there is meat in this table, if we all go to the house of Mr. Viyon, he invites us over for Thanksgiving, and we all go there, and God has told me not to eat that day. If I eat, it is sin unto me. But can I make a doctrine out of it and say that if you eat on Thanksgiving, then no, you cannot, And I hope that kind of like answers that question. I hope it does. Or if there is any more question to that, again, just to emphasize it, I don't know, for instance, how, in fairness, you will live in certain provinces of Canada and you know wear trouser. I don't know how you do it. That you live in Nunavut or Labrador and Newfoundland. And you would engage, you go to work, you go out, people who have been there know. If you've not been there, you can think there's no way it's somehow possible, but I don't see how. Okay, so that's I think is my answer. There are doctrinal issues, there are biblical issues. Biblical issues do not change or move. Doctrinal issues get altered by time, space, culture, necessity, wisdom, and stuff like that. And we need to have the humility to engage the stuff that way. Okay, and I see a question, either consciously or unconsciously, spirituality governs our life, correct? But it seems unholy activities seem to alter life progression of those who are conscious of spiritual, walking when they walk into it. What can you say about that? Okay, I think I have an idea what you're saying. Like, spirituality governs our life whether we like it or not. But for people who are then conscious of it, unholy activities seem to alter life progression, right? Yes. And it's just a question of awareness. Now, even for people who are not active with it, like your question, like the opening of your question suggests, either consciously or unconsciously, spirituality governs our lives. So, David, Psalm 37, he said that he used to be envious of the wicked, and he wondered, to what end, for what have I held my integrity? I have served God. I have put my integrity of the line. I've tried to do things that please God, but it seems like nothing is coming out of it. And I look at the other people and they seem to be progressive. He said, until I went into the temple of God and I saw their end. So whether or not they were conscious of it, there was an end for them that was not pleasant, as it were. it did not matter that they were not conscious of it. But why it looks as if it alters life progression for us is because of awareness. We already have awareness. Again, like the scripture said that I quoted incidentally, he that knows to do good and does not do it, it is sin unto him. Knowledge is a burden. That we all know that that's true. And it's the same thing here. The fact that you know, the fact that you're aware, if you know better, you're expected to do better. So the difference is you know that it has altered life progression for you. Now, the fact that the other person does not know that it is altering life progression for them on a constant basis does not mean it's not doing it. It's doing it. They're just not aware. The difference is you're spiritually conscious and minded, so now you're aware. But there's an advantage to that, because if you are aware, then you can course correct. The danger for the person who is not aware is that they don't know. So they continue to go deeper and deeper into it. Deeper roles. It might look initially like nothing is happening, but the day would catch up with you. One of the things I try not to do is to be a fearmonger, but some of these things are true. Like the story I said of the lady, the Israeli lady, and her boyfriend, Sasha. Sometimes these things can be the difference between life and death. Sometimes it could be, there are many things that people have carelessly walked into because they were not spiritually alert, they were not spiritually minded, they were not spiritually aware, that they have mindlessly walked into that has totally altered the case of the course of their life for bad, and it's almost irreparable, or it really, really cost them a lot down the line that you have been saved from. And, so just because they don't know does not mean that their life progression is not being altered. It's been altered. What happened with you is your spiritual awareness made you quickly pick the alteration, and that's an advantage. You can course correct. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Okay, I think I have a question, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I think it still revolves around this whole spiritual awareness. And I think the question came to my mind when you were sharing your story of when you were in Abuja and the experience you had with the person, right? So it reminded me of a personal story too. I remember that I walked into a place and the person just walked up to me, and I think in my own case now, I was actually planning to do something at that particular time, and the person just came and told me exactly what I was trying to do. And I think for me, the outcome was like that. This thing would be successful, kind of, and all of that. So I think to some extent that kind of played to my bias, right? Even though as at that point, really, I didn't give much attention to it. In fact, I just played it away, like just joking, and that kind of thing. Just didn't pay much attention to it. But I think after the whole scenario, I went back and I thought of that. That's interesting. Like, this guy is really gifted and all of that. But where I'm going is this. I think that particular thing, even though it was something it was a plan I was trying to execute, I've prayed and done everything about it. It didn't eventually materialize. I had failures, let me just put it like that, along the way. And I think, again, when I was starting to have those challenges, the whole scenario now played back in my head. I'm like, but somebody just gave a word concerning this, but this thing. So initially, I didn't pay attention to it. I think when those stuff started coming, when I started facing that challenge, so the thoughts started coming that maybe somebody who said that this particular thing would work out and all of that. So my question is that when do you know, and relating it back to the experience of the lady or the guy you shared at first that was also having what would I call it, doubts in his mind or not traveling. So when do you know, really talking about spiritual awareness, when to pay attention to probably these spectacular cases now or incidences like that, than to to know when to play it away and say, okay, I trust God, I know myself in Christ and all of that. When do you know when to really pay attention to those tricky situations like that, sir?
Okay. Right. Okay. So I'll try to answer that this way. First, really going on the experience that you said you have, and when someone walks up to you, and because of the kind of country where we grew up and all of that, there's a lot of these things. And someone asked me this question a number of years ago. It's maybe 10 or 12 years. It's been long. Kind of like the same thing. I go to the park and I get into the park. I'm trying to take a bus and all these prophets come and tell me something. What should I do? Should I believe them or not? Well, I then told her, my straight answer to her at that time was, you remember where Jesus said in the book of Mark 11, I think, that by whose authority do you speak? Now, the spiritual realm is a portal, is a realm. It is there. Different kind of spirits operate in it at different frequencies, just like radio station operate at different frequencies, right? And sometimes they jam each other. That's literally how the spiritual realm is. There are different players, there are different spirits, and they jam each other in that realm. Okay? But the question is, the idea and the important point is that there is authority. Just like radio stations have frequencies, and then there is the National Broadcasting Corporation in Nigeria that can say, shut down that frequency. That can say, do not broadcast this on this frequency. That somebody can broadcast something on a frequency, and they can then say, you know what, we overrule that. There is authorities in those frequencies. And so when Jesus said, by whose authority do you speak? So an example that somebody gave me that was so great. We were in college then in the school that I went to. And he said, you know, in this university, there are buildings around the university that the people that live there, they're not students, they're not even lecturers, they don't work in the university, right? But they live close to the university. So by virtue of that, they know the things that is happening in the university. They can drive around and see a poster that we're going to have a homecoming game. And then they can call their family member in Florida or Minnesota or anything and say, hey, you know what? On Saturday, blah, 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 there is homecoming game. They are in that system. They are in that space. So they are able to peep into the knowledge of what is going on in that space. However, if the president of the school then comes up on Friday and say, you know what, because of XYZ that is happening, we are postponing this game. We're not having it again on Saturday. It's next Saturday. Can this person come and overrule the president?
No.
Why? Authority. So just because there are certain spirits in a certain area does not mean they all have the same level of authority. And that's where the authority that you carry and the authority of who has spoken matters in this question. That's why he says, who is he that speaks and it comes to pass when the Lord has not commanded it? Authority. The most important voice you need, as a matter of fact, the only, but I'm trying to tell you that just because some other people pick it, that you might not even know. Some of them might actually be clean spirits. Some of them, maybe God is even really using them. Some of them might be familiar spirits. Some of them might be agencies. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Saul went to call up the spirit of Samuel from a witch, and Samuel came, a prophet of God. An anointed prophet of God was brought back from the dead by a witch. They exist. People operate at different frequencies there. But just because somebody operates in that space and brings you something does not stamp authority over it. God does. So what is God saying about that issue? That's your final authority. And there are some times when, you think that you have prayed about something or you expect it to go in certain directions. You feel you, in fact, have all the spiritual leading and backing and light that you have for it to go in that direction, and it still doesn't go in that direction. Well, that's where questions of things like sovereignty even come in. It's that I may not know what is going on. I may not fully understand. I may even think I know in a certain direction, but one thing that I know is that if I commit my life into God's hand, it is safe with him. and I can never regret it. It can never go wrong. So that's why personally, I've emphasized extremely that spirituality exists and all of that. But there is my life, I have given my life to God to direct. There's no way a witch or one wizard or one evil spirit somewhere can be controlling my life at the same time Holy Spirit is controlling. How does the Holy Spirit control? And now, are they fighting, steering together in their hands? Things can be happening that I don't understand or have a full picture of, but I trust in God's sovereignty. There would be things I would learn. Sometimes it might even be my mistake. Sometimes it might be my misdirection or misjudgment, but I trust the one to whose hands I have committed my life. All things work together for good for them that love God and are called up into his purpose. There's sovereignty and there's finality. I know that if I trust him, everything, including the ones that I understand and I don't understand, will work together for good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayokun. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. For we know whom we have believed. We are persuaded that is able to keep that which is committed into his care. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. EJD, we've gone past.
Yeah, you can stop sharing now. Thank you. Wow. Now you see why Mayokun should be our guest speaker, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, we're exposed together in CCF 9 First Footer, right? And it was always a delight. Like, if you want arguments, he did. And then
we need to connect after now, Begu.
No, I'm trying to reduce the argument side.
Agbatinde.
Maybe collect that beg.
Sincerely, like, I mean, the kind of deep conversations we had all those times, like you'll be forced, you can't afford to just be a wishy-washy Christian. Like, you want to go and, like, you can't just be talking to him and be emotional, right? You have to guess what? One of our, I mean, and you can see already he's not just a Bible person, right? He's just this very vast person, like politics, everything. Guess what? My engagement with him on Facebook led to my PhD thesis title.
Are you serious?
Can you imagine that? Yeah. Wow. I mean, then it was this whole Atiku, Abubakar, Buhari saga, Then I used to, these days I don't even care. Like, America has a new president. I've not even mentioned it on Facebook. I have my interest. I know where my interest lies and everything. But I mean, but that was the days I think I still had time to be arguing all these kind of things. But then I was so pained because of the mess Buhari was in his first term and all of that. And I was just tweeting some stuff, and he will come and he would just tell you something. And at first the thing would be like, this is not making sense, guy. What are you saying? Then you now go and make your research and discover, oh, this guy is actually right. So that really helped me to be like when you look at an issue, drop your emotion first. Look at what the scripture says. For me, if you're talking a Bible thing, look at what the Bible says in the context, not what you have been told already, right? What does the Bible really, really, really say? Not what, because most of us just operate based on all the sentiments that have been passed down to us and things like that. I mean, after that encounter, I just looked at it that I just developed interest in fake news. The 2016 election in the US really shaped the world. That's where this whole idea of fake news, disinformation, misinformation, malinformation, all of those things came up. So that really piqued my interest, and that was why I ended up doing my PhD thesis on mathematical modeling of information spread, basically. So it was that. I mean, just engaging with him, you'll be forced to drop your emotions and look at the reality, right? So I mean, Mayor, God bless you. Thanks for doing the honor. I was so excited when we started Real Boys Forum in January, and I saw he just joined, and I'm like, really? This is sweet, And when he was talking about this particular topic, I just, before I arrive at a speaker, right, I do a lot of scanning. Like, many names will keep rushing into my head, and I'll just be screening them out. So I wanted somebody that would just take this thing and not come with all the baggage of, okay, like, I mean, you can attest to it already. I'm excited. Like, you can see the excitement on my face already. Like, May your God bless you. Like, I'm such a blessing to know you. I can't wait to see you again. I should see you next year. I have a strong feeling I'm going to see you next year. I just have that very strong feeling. Yeah, for sure. Since 2013, imagine. Since
Oh,
2013, that was
that's
the last
11
time.
years.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been such a nice time. I mean, for sure, like we have seen already, that spirituality really matters because the spiritual controls the physical from all of the things he has said. He also made mention of the fact that God, right? Spirituality guides and grounds us, and it seems to make every other thing make sense, really. I mean, in my life, right? I've seen that playing out. I've seen, there are sometimes you think some things are just mere coincidences. Like I can count 2 or 3 coincidences that if they did not coincide, my life would take a totally different turn. And that is the place of spirituality. Like you just have a strong, can you imagine one thing just happened? I don't know how to place him. Like I'll say he's my academic mentor, right? He's a professor in MIT. So recently I made some applications and he's one of my recommenders. I always okay, when last week, for instance, we had a scholarship. We don't have another group, Opportunities with AJD, where we talk about scholarship stuff. So we had that meeting and I always tell them, don't meet your recommenders just because you need recommendation. There's something called emotional bank account, right? You want to, like happy new month. Nigeria, we like happy new month, happy new week, happy Sunday, all those things. But I mean, don't do too much, right? But at least look at strategic times. Their birthdays, new month, new year, they have a new promotion and things like that. Just go. So I mean, yesterday I just felt like, let me just thank them. They helped me write applications. So I sent it to 2 of these professors. One of them is in Morgan State University. The other one is in MIT. So I sent to them and they're like, oh, thank you very much. When I woke up this morning, I saw the response from the MIT person and it was like, wow, thank you so much. This means a lot to me. And I'm like, what did I write? Just 2 lines. Compliments their professor. God bless you real good. That was all I wrote. And when he responded, that means a lot to me. And I'm like, really? Like, I could only imagine what I did, right? So sometimes I'm going on the road and some thought just comes and it looks like it's just something random. So I mean, I'm a witness that spirituality is such a big deal, and it has also helped me to struggle. I mean to not struggle where a lot of people are. I mean, one thing that I put out something on Facebook like that. One of the best ways to enjoy your life is to go with God's flow. God has a flow, but we have a tendency as humans, especially if you are very intelligent, you want to walk your way. I've learned to stop walking my way. I just follow God, and you just see everything working out. And people will look at you like, I mean, maybe you have something special that you are doing, or I mean, there's no way I'll tell people how I got the current position I'm in now. There's no way I'll tell people I didn't have it planned that they will believe. Like some people, they will just think I already have that thing in place. I just came and entered it. I just came by faith, just because of family, and the thing was just there waiting. I didn't even have to apply. So things like that. I think we have done so much already. This 18 hours behind the schedule. Thank you so much once again. May your God bless you. God bless you so much. Thanks for the enlightenment. I really got enlightened. And thank you for all the questions, everybody. Thank you. We have ladies in the house. We are very grateful to have you. Are they still here? Let me see. Blessing Jeremiah, the Dansu. Yeah, well, God bless you. Yeah. There's Nkechi in the house. I don't know who this Nkechi's surname. I tend to know people better with their surnames. But Nkechi, God bless you. Thanks for being here. It's we don't take it for granted. This is boys' place, but we always welcome ladies for our virtual meetups because I mean, all the books we've been writing. So we've read gist that even ladies are like, the title is just Wisdom for Young, but they're also getting blessed from all of these things. Thank you for being here. We're very grateful. I think it should be a wrap already. Yeah. So thank you so much, everybody. God bless you. Viyon, thank you for the moderation. Great job. We pray for you speed as you complete your PhD. Like you'll be faster than what you can imagine going forward. You have grace, you have energy. God bless you. So see you again. I think we should have one more virtual meetup for this year. I mean, this is already November, so we have December to go. So I already have an idea what that should look like. And next moderator, I don't remember, but I will get back into the group and I'll find out who that should be. I mean, I think I can make the announcement here. From January 2025, we are going to have a new model. We are going to have some leaders. I want to take a back seat and just see because one of our aims too is, we've been talking about leadership and things like that. I want to sit back and just have some other guys, running the show. So, and I mean, if you're a member of RBF, of course, we have the mentors, but I like the leaders to be majorly people who are actually aged from 18 to 40, really, like, so people who can, especially people who may be new to leadership or something like that, or you just want to take your leadership forward. So I'll be dropping that message from this night so that we start a process to have some leaders and we'll go on from there. Thank you very much, everybody, once again. Have a perfect time. God bless you real good. Lord Mayor of Texas.
Thank you so much, guys.
And the future governor of Ondo State. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. Okay, I think I want to go around and greet people. Allow me, Abayomi. Yeah, is the freshest bridegroom in Ray Boys Forum. He has brought his wife to Japan. So we are the company is increasing. Jumbo Vito and freshest graduates, freshest copper, everything. Blessing Jeremiah, our Dansu family. David Olude, God bless you. David Bonu, thanks for being here. Yeah, we have our big mentor in the house, Olushola Okpale, my rabbi.
We salute, sir.
Yes, sir. And Ayodiji Sunday Timile, thank you for being here. Israel Niolua, our virtual meetup committee people, God bless you. Sunday Venance, my friend from way back, God bless you. Thanks for being here. Nkechi's iPhone, God bless you. And Amefule Chukwemeka Timothy, that's one of my latest friends. In fact, as far as this gathering is concerned, is the newest friend I had. I spoke on his platform talking about data science like last weekend, I believe. And it was such a delight. Thanks for being here. God bless you. Now, in case you came in late, this video is going to be up on YouTube very soon, so you have not missed anything really. So I know more people will watch it on YouTube than people who attended. So watch out for that. So till we meet again in the group, if you're a member of the Real Boys Forum or elsewhere, if you're not, God bless you. See you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. You're welcome, Chukwemeka. God bless you.